Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question that is to discuss the difference between a bully and a sociopath or psychopath. What is the difference between a bully and someone who really might have an antisocial personality disorder, such as we see with someone who has sociopathy or psychopathy? In my viewpoint, when you talk about someone who is a bully, they are using and throwing their weight around. They are trying to use fear and intimidation. They are using threats. They're trying to use sort of brute force or aggression to intimidate and make others feel vulnerable, weak, small, and meek to get what they want. So they are opportunists just for the thrill of the conquer. The thrill of the conquer and having sort of getting people aligned with the big the big guy, the big girl, and you'd better want to be on the side of the bully so you don't end up being targeted. It's the old, I'm going to get you in the playground if you don't give me your homework. Now, it's advanced to a whole nother level and with the cyber age. And, we've got all sorts of this going on with social media. And, they're using, all these different outlets as a way to bully others. And it can be really, get and pick up a lot of steam. But a psychopath or a sociopath targets more the vulnerable to get what they need. They're opportunists in a different way. You can either get them what they want and help them, or you are a hindrance. So they're really just sort of very binary in how they look at people. Are you going to help me to get something, or are you going to hinder me? If you're a hindrance, you're not really important to them. If you're going to help them, then you can be a target or a suspect. And to help them, it might be just because it would look good, you have information, you have access to other people, and it's just, you would be an important one to win over. And it becomes very obvious, especially when you see that this person is excessively charming, excessively complimentary to others, using a lot of flattery right away, and then all of a sudden it just seems like this person is just so nice. They are over the top nice. And sure, a lot of people are very nice people, but with a antisocial personality disorder, it has an agenda. It has nothing to do with being genuine. It has nothing to do with how they really feel. These people do not feel anything. They don't feel a connection. They don't feel a desire. They don't feel empathy. They don't feel shame. They don't feel remorse or regret. And the people who a sociopath or a psychopath will target usually are at is felt to be as sort of a needy or low place in their lives. Maybe they just went through a breakup. They went through a loss of a family member, loss of a job. They can be very shy or introverted. They're achingly, needing attention. They are, but they don't maybe broadcast that need for attention. But a sociopath or a psychopath can pick up the body language. They really, studies have shown that people who are antisocial look at body language. How the stride of somebody, how far do they make their steps away from each other? To what degree, is their muscle tense? To what degree how are their breathing patterns? Do they look like they're timid, like they could be easily pushed over? And so they kind of suss this out, and they can be able to really identify people who have low self-esteem and who have low maybe self-worth. And they've got this going on. They don't broadcast it once again, but they can pick up the subtle cues. And, studies have been shown that, sociopaths, if they're given some test subjects and, out of a list of or a lineup of 10, can you identify which of these people got mugged? They're able to pick it out very quickly by studying their body language, the way that they carry themselves, their timidity. and and they are right on. They can see who would be an easy target. It sounds kind of common sense, but it's not really. It's kind of their own sense. Most people wouldn't really be able to make that assessment or that determination. Oh sure, that person seems like that they're kind of out of it, and they're holding their wallet on a string. I mean, we're talking about something deeper on the subliminal level, that they really tick, target and tick somebody. So, whereas a bully, they're just going to kind of go for the small, the meek, the easy targets. Someone who, doesn't have a lot of backup, someone who's an easy target. It's very shameful. And the bully, does this to overcompensate, but they don't really have that help or hindrance. It's just more as an outlet. And they really, might grow out of it. Whereas a psychopath, they don't grow out of this. They are always, always a situation. It doesn't, get worse. It can get worse. It doesn't get better. And sure, there's different degrees, who is, more advanced or in what field or more intellectual. It all can depend on the personal and the composite makeup, but the sociopath oftentimes won't, have, they don't want to use a lot of intimidation or fear or that brute force. It's more the flip side with the endearing, the charming, the love bombing. A bully won't love bomb you and then bully you over, whereas, a sociopath will target sort of that vulnerable, to get what they need. And oftentimes they'll then gain the trust of their individual that will mirror back to them that, you are safe with me. Your secrets are safe with me. You're just like me. And so people who are in a low point or have a feeling of low self-worth, maybe, a history of being neglected, abused, abandoned, they have this, as a resulting sort of wound or soft spot, if you will, trauma bond in the past. So, there's this sort of, achiness to their pain body. They, have a lot of pain cycling, and it can even have physical manifestations, result in chronic diseases based on the emotional component of their previous experiences being traumatic, traumatizing, can maybe even lead to, a lot of the, PTSD, the complex PTSD, and not, having sort of that timidity as a result. It's a natural reaction, but yet a psychopath will target those individuals who have sort of that wounded past, who have that soft spot, who have that area where they're, they need to be handled with kid gloves, being very gentle, with true people who can trust. And a sociopath will definitely select those people and then try and then oftentimes succeed through charm, through sort of grooming their subjects that your secrets are safe with me. You can trust me. I've got a shoulder for you. I've got a plate for you. Whatever it is that gives you that comfort, they're able to pick up on that right away and win you over. And so with that, it's important to understand, that a bully, their need to have aggression it's a genuine feeling. It's who they are inside. A sociopath, when they are targeting somebody, what you see is not what you get at all. They don't feel shame, remorse, regret. They don't, so the moral compass that most people have, they don't have that to stop them. It's not a hindrance. So they can go after whatever it is that they want. Are you a help or are you a hindrance? So they're very much about taking advantage, and they just will line up a number of different prey, just throughout the course of their life. A bully, they might have different phases that they go in and out of, and they can, with understanding and perhaps consequences, they can be reformed. The sociopath, consequences are sort of irrelevant. They feel above the law, impunity, untouchable. It doesn't matter. I'm not afraid of you. Whereas most people would say, OMG, look at the consequences of my behavior. a sociopath, it's irrelevant to them. They're not fazed at all. Even if there's all sorts of things going on, whistleblower or whatever, it does not frighten them. They do not feel fear, shame, regret. They don't feel it. It's not a capacity that they have. And I find it very interesting oftentimes that they will target those people who have an abundance of qualities with which they lack. So, for example, they will oftentimes target those people who do have toxic or chronic shame. They have that sort of deep humility or that pain body, that's kind of always there lurking beneath the surface. And then seek to sort of learn about that, and they'll be able to, sort of fill their ammunition, if you will, or fill their tool bag when they're able to sort of figure out what makes these people tick. Why are they ashamed? What kind of trepidations do they have? What kind of limitations? And then how can I gain their trust? And it's oftentimes a unique relationship because people who have a traumatizing past have a difficulty trusting the right people until they kind of have a couple go-arounds, and then they learn. And they learn to value themselves and trust themselves before they trust others. Trust yourself before you trust others, and kind of seeing through that madness. It's an important skill to learn in your healing. And so, with a bully, they do oftentimes, they might feel the fear, but they'll do it anyway. So these people might have a lot of courage. A sociopath, they don't have courage, because to have courage, you have to have a sense of fear and, I've got to really do well here to get through this and, and manage that feeling. Whereas a psychopath, they don't have any of that holding them back whatsoever. I mean, they're just, it's a non-issue. Whereas other people are, inhibited and base their decisions on consequences and want to avoid negative consequences. The sociopath isn't really registering that in their calculation of their future and what they do and how they treat people. And they really don't learn from consequences. They'll just keep doing it over and over again. In fact, they really don't seem to hold on to a lot of consequences or learning. In other words, what you did here hurt me. What you did here, I don't like the fact that you cheated on me. They'll just be like, oh, I'm sorry. And then it won't faze them. They'll just tell people what they want to hear. A bully will tell you what you don't want to hear. And they'll make these threats, and you kind of, what you see is what you get with a bully. They'll tell you right away, this, give me that for this, or whatever. It's very threatening. They're using, that they're throwing their weight around, throwing their size around, throwing their muscles around. They can be very loud, and they can oftentimes have a lot of people on their side to kind of be like, are you on my side? And then, you got that sort of birds of a feather situation going on. Where a psychopath, they don't need birds of a feather. They're okay with doing how they do. Sure, I think a psychopath, as, studies have shown, they kind of know who the other psychopaths are. And, they might even trade notes, trade stories, trade jokes, and just sort of know who their competition is, if you will. But importantly, it's to understand that a psychopath has a much more sophisticated, spidey sense that goes out with who they target. And it's usually because there's something that you have that they want, versus just for the exercise of conquering somebody. So, if you've wondered about that, and what you can do, is to understand that there are people who are going to take advantage. It happens, and it's important to learn about these types of individuals so that you don't feel too naive, so that you aren't green, so that you don't find yourself getting blown over by the charisma or the charm of these individuals, which usually has a sort of positive sense. This person's so charming. And then usually the individual who they're being targeted feels like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky to have this individual. Wow, I'm so fortunate. There's this sort of flip side where, they feel that this, and they really love and adore this person, and they think that they're so fortunate and lucky to have this, unique love in their life, until they get dropped like a hot potato, and as if they don't even recognize you. It's very strange, how they just do these things. It's business as usual for a psychopath. And, so the trusting, a bully isn't going to try to seek to get your trust, whereas a psychopath, they'll, give you all sorts of information that, of course, is falsified, to try to get you to trust them. They might create a sob story. Poor, pitiful me. There's been a lot of people and stories in the news where they will, that's how they target their victims. Oh, I have a broken arm. Can you please help me pump my gas? Oh, you're so kind. Let me get you a soda and some chips from the grocery store. Next thing you know, they're going out for a coffee, and it's that poor, and then people who then want to help. How many of you who feel you've been targeted have felt like, I was here to help this person? Raise your hand. Help them with their situation, their hardship, their woes, and I can't believe someone would treat somebody like you this way. And then it's the old deer eyes in the headlight for supporting these individuals, and then they're just like got you hook, line, and sinker. So it's very deliberate, it's very calculating, and it's very sort of, I would say, designed so that it will break down your barriers, and they will get into that once they feel that they've won you over, and then really begin to then edge out and seek to violate and trespass those boundaries, so that they are then controlling you. They seek to control others in a very insidious, cruel way, getting trust, doing things like, oh, you're so tired, let me drive you, and, let me drive your car, and, why don't you just put your head on my lap and just relax. And then meanwhile, they're doing that so that they can scope out other victims in the area, so that it looks like they're driving alone. I mean, people just don't think about this. Normal people don't plot and plan in this way. Oh, why don't you just go and do this, or face this way in the restaurant, and then they'll face for the door to make sure that they don't see anybody that they know coming in while they're double and triple dating, or, double and triple marriages. So it's very deliberate. It's all the time. It's very calculated. The way that they watch, the way that they study others is an ongoing situation. It's just like they're always staking out the environment. And because they don't have that sort of internal, that internal sense of having a moral compass. They have a whole different outlook. And whereas a bully is, doesn't have that, sure, they're aware that they're big, and, and they just they're just beefed up or whatever it is. And there can be females as well who will use their body as, a way to allure people, doing this or that to get people to be coaxed in. And it's kind of a terrible situation, but you can learn, that you were open and allowing and trusting. And it just so happened, you were open, allowing, and trusting to the wrong type of person. And lesson learned. Lesson learned. That's why I talk about in the book that I'm working on, it's so important that you take stock of your lessons learned and write them down. Because not only that, they're going to go back into the subconscious, but you need to write them down and then be able to look at them and gaze them and digest them and absorb them, so you realize, this person, in the beginning, what did love bombing look like? What did it feel like? What did it sound like? Why was I being given all this information? Why was I given this sob story? Why did I listen? And realize, where trusted and probably took in or absorbed too much. Let me help. Oh, I'm the help. I'm not the hindrance. And so, help, and to what degree were you there to help and be a support? A psychopath will look around for people who are supply so that they can get what they want. A psychopath will tell you unequivocally that that's how they look at people. Can you get me what I want? Period. End of story. Not for companionship, not to share discussions, not to express things, not to examine things and go OMG or have like a good laugh and a cheers and a clink of the glasses and, oh, and, I got this food and this, or I got this deal, or, just sharing common things. It's, can you get me what I want? Can you get me, the rent? Can you get me the food? Can you be a decoy? Can you be an outlet just so that once I conquer, I've taken down the competition for the dating or whatever it is that they feel that they are going for somebody after. There's always going to be on their agenda something that they want. And it has nothing to do with having a relationship, a connection. The support that they give is not genuine. It is meant to lure you and to get you really sort of transfixed on them as the one and only, so that they have you subdued. That's how they control people. So, and if you had been open to it, realize that it's a lesson learned. It doesn't make you a less person, a worse person, a weak person. It just means that you were open and trusting. Someone had targeted your good nature. And because you possess an abundance of these qualities, oftentimes that can be the reason why. People say why, and never again. Oftentimes because they're also going to target people so that they can study and then pick up, information. For example, if you have a lot of shame, from your past and you've shared this with them, they're taking notes so that they can then use that, in the next relationship, the next setting. A bully, not so much. They might want you to, just sort of bow down to the bully, give me authority. A bully might want more sort of that, that alpha or that authority. Look up to me, and it's, hail the king, hail the queen. Some bullies are very much like that. And, a sociopath doesn't have that same feeling or need, because they resort to a whole bunch of other different tactics. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Be aware and remember to trust yourself. Trust yourself, and then, learn to listen to your gut and say, you know what, I'm okay with this. It might not be popular for me to say no. It might not be popular for me to put an end or to not jump on the bandwagon, but I'm going to trust myself here. And if you do, and do your lessons learned, write them out, because they're going to go in and out, or, a couple of weeks or months later, you might want to flip through those and refresh yourself. Aha, that's right. And, I remember this. This is how I got lured in. This is how I got sucked in. This is how things got lopsided. I was always giving compliments here, always giving this here. I didn't see what was going on. I didn't see that I wasn't receiving, or, I felt that my value was based on how I helped them. So do you see how low self-esteem can then prompt you to be a resource for these types of people? So I hope some of this comes full circle and it really begins to make sense. And then trust yourself. Begin to give yourself the high five, the pat on the back, the amen. Trust yourself. Go with your gut. Even if it's not popular, even if, the psychopath or the sociopath, you're going to have to let them go, or they might question you. Be able to reinforce and back yourself up. Nope. Once again, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, lost the t-shirt. I'm liberated. Trust yourself. Have a beautiful day.